There we go.
Now we can't swing and I'm wanting to swing.
I know, it's hard not to. Good morning, everybody. It's Danny and Wanda back from Deep South Homestead. Sitting out on the pier today, guys. That's something we haven't been able to do in a while.
Everybody asked us about, doing videos outside and stuff like that. Well, it's been cold and I've been sick and I really didn't want to get out and do much of anything.
Yeah, and it's just cool this morning. It's like 54. That's,
But it feels good.
It feels good. There's no wind. That's why we can sit out here like this around the water and everything. There's no wind.
When the wind picks up, it gets a little cool, and Danny and I start putting on sweaters and jackets and feeling like it's 0 degrees out
here. Yeah, because especially when you're next to the water here, the wind coming off the water is colder than it is just normally blowing through the woods. But we've been kind of walking around this morning, enjoying. It's a foggy morning, it's a cloudy morning, and cool. And when you have fog, you have no breeze. So we were kind of like looking at our landscape here. We're in our backyard right here at Deep South Homestead, and we were just looking at all the edibles that we have here, because what was we thinking? 2007, I told you?
I think Danny and I got married in 2013. But in 2000, he bought this property. Well, he moved on to this property. I moved on to this property
in 2000.
And you didn't really, it was wood, so you said you didn't
really
start.
The sun never hit the ground here. It was all big timber everywhere. But then Katrina happened.
2005.
2005 blew down most of the large timber that was right here in this one area. And then I was devastated because I was just like in the broad opening. And I hate open areas, okay? So I immediately went to work on permaculture because I was like, hey, I have a new slate here. I have a clean slate. Mm-hmm. Let's put this stuff back like I want it back, not like nature did it. So we had a dozer come in and clear a lot of the land up and left what trees was left standing.
That's how we had pasture.
Yeah, that's the only reason we have pasture. And this holler right here where the pond is at that we're sitting on the pier on was big timber, and it blew all of it down, so the dozer cleared all this. Of course, Wanda and I turned it into a hog pen, and we had hogs.
Then eventually the ponds about 4 years ago.
So we really I embarked upon permaculture at around 2007, somewhere in that area. Because it took me a while to get over the loss of all the big timber that was here, and to realize, hey, if I'm going to start over, let's do it in a way that we can have an edible landscape. Of course, my wife that was with me at the time, she passed away with cancer, and then it was just me after that. And I lost interest. I'm not going to lie. I lost interest in stuff for a while. Even when Wanda and I got married.
He had a lot going on, and I was amazed because he already had a couple of apple trees. He had peach trees, pear trees, fig trees. We had
pecan trees.
The pecans, but they were small.
They were small. Well, they were old enough, but they were small.
And the things in the woods was just outrageous.
Yeah.
We had the huckleberries and the dewberries and you had plenty of mulberries.
Oh yeah, we had mulberries.
This tree was not here.
This tree was not here, but the other one was.
And we had a different tree, but we've added a lot since then, and we could go out and forage in the woods for berries. On the hillsides where the dewberries and the blackberries and all were, we had a lot of edibles. That first year, I was amazed. I made more jelly than anybody ought to ever make.
Yeah, matter of fact, we
This is all I knew to do with it at the time, was to make jellies.
Yeah.
And his dad and him owned the blueberry farm, so we were going over there getting blueberries. But now we've added our own. And in this area, we've got a lot of edibles. We have a lot.
Just right here in the backyard alone. I mean, the red clover, we've since realized that we didn't want to just have to be able to purchase fertilizer to fertilize the ground in the springs with. So we went through here and we spread red clover through the whole backyard on everything. And now it's up and it's in beautiful bloom right now. And it's so hard, guys, not to mow the yard. Okay?
Yeah.
The yard looks like a jungle. I mean, it looks
like
nobody lives here, and it just looks horrible. But then you look out here and you see all this red tops on everything.
With the yellow and the blue.
Yeah, with the
Now,
yellows and the blues.
I don't know what the yellow and blue is exactly.
Well, it's the
it's some type of weed.
It's sorrel. There's a lot of sorrel in it, and then there's these I don't know what the blue stuff is. It looks like little trumpet flowers or something.
Yeah, it's cute, but it's tall. It's real tall. It's above the yellow. It's beautiful, but each one of them has their purposes.
Yeah.
And we're not here to give medical advice or anything.
No,
we're just saying,
no.
go look up different ones. All this stuff can be used for medicinal purposes and food purposes.
And food, yeah.
We have been led to believe that you have to go to a grocery store and purchase oatmeal and vegetables and stuff like that at your local grocery store, when sometimes you can walk outside and, like the red clover, makes an awesome tea. You can add the flowers into your salads and stuff like that. Even these blue flowers and these yellow flowers can be added into a salad.
Yeah.
They're not poisonous. So people just don't know what to look for in their backyard.
And the thing that we like about it is, if we need it, we have forage for the animals. We can come in here, and the red clover actually does better if you cut it off when it's younger and let it bush back out. It does a lot better. And you can take, like, if you've got rabbits and stuff like that, and a lot of people go, oh, but an animal will bloat. No, that's only if you don't give them magnesium and
don't give them too much.
Don't give them too much at one time. I mean, just take you a handful of it. We have hand cysts. We just go through and we just cut that stuff off and just take it to the rabbits. And look, they gorge on that stuff. The cows, as long as you introduce it to them gradually, then if you want to turn them in on it, you can. I mean, and it's all about putting nitrogen into the soil. That was my whole point a while ago, was we don't want to have to buy fertilizers to fertilize everything. So we let the clover we just let it go to seed and just die and fall back into the soil, and puts the nitrogen back in the soil for the trees to live on. And guys, it's evident that it's working. I mean, the trees are enormous. I mean,
this little mulberry tree, we got two from a lady back in, I want to say, before we started YouTube, so it would have had to been 2004 or 5.
14.
2014 or 15.
Yeah, 14
I always
or 15.
lose a 10.
It was 14 or 15. Yeah, it was one of the two.
And we planted them here, and this was all a pig pen and stuff. And
there was actually another one right here beside us. If you go back and look at the old videos, it was there.
When we put this here.
When we put the pier here, and dirt from building the pond washed back in around it and actually sunk it too deep in the ground, and it actually died.
But it put on more berries than this one to start with.
It was really nice. And the crazy thing about it, this old lady that we talk, I hate to call her old lady, Miss Eleanor. She has a name, okay? I don't like labeling people. Miss Eleanor
was a wonderful wealth of knowledge.
That woman, she was in her 90s, I believe.
80s.
80s?
I don't think she'd made it to 90.
She hadn't quite made it 90. She'd had cancer like 5 times, she said.
Mm-hmm.
And still going, you know. And that woman's knowledge on grafting, rootstock starting, just wild stuff, just bringing it back to life, being able to go out and cut a limb off and what day put it in the ground, it was beyond comprehension. This stuff's just lost. I tried to get as much as I could from this wonderful lady. And
she's where we got our start for our raspberries, and we still have a start of those.
Yeah, we got raspberries.
We got the pomegranate tree, which is
over
the
here. Pomegranate. I forgot about that.
She had. I didn't know pomegranates would grow in South Mississippi.
Neither did I.
And in her backyard, she had trees that were over 10 feet tall, right up next to her trailer, and they were just hanging in pomegranates.
Pomegranates this big around. I'm talking about huge, big
ripe pomegranates. And she said, "Go get you as many as you want." And I filled my refrigerator tray up with pomegranates, and it was wonderful.
And she asked us, she says, well, would you like a young tree? Get you a cutting. And I said, ma'am, I don't know how to do this. I'd just be cutting a limb off your tree. So she gave us a little tree.
Yeah.
And that she had been potting herself. And we, of course, we bought a lot of other stuff from her. Where
the mulberries, we bought the mulberries
from her, and lots of other edibles that we bought from her.
I don't even remember now. It's been so long, but I do remember the mulberries.
Oh, the mayhaws came from her.
The mayhaws. Oh, they're starting to turn red now.
They're turning red, guys.
I told Danny I just turned my head and go, oh.
You're just like, ugh. There's so many of them.
So we're fixing to start harvesting mayhaws.
Yes.
And you know, we got a lot from her.
Loquats. Did we get the loquats from her?
No.
No. Oh, they come from Grow Family.
Grow Family gave us the loquats.
Yeah, loquats.
And so over in this area here, we have the loquats. We have our I think, did you get one of the grape scuppernines or muscadines?
No, I didn't get any grape. Those come from my daddy's place.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have muscadines and scuppernongs, and then we have the loquats, we have the mayhaws, we have plum trees.
Let me share a story with them right quick. Like I don't even think Wanda even knows. Wanda may know this. The purple muscadine vine that I have over here. I'm going to show you how God works. Okay. That muscadine back 25 or 30 years ago, when I lived in another place, the property we own now at Pecan Grove, I was there when I met the gentleman that owned the property doing some land work around it there. And he asked me at that time, did I want a muscadine cutting that he had rooted? And I told him, I was always like, yeah, you know, so I got it, brought it to the other place where I used to live. And when I left that place and bought this place, I brought that cutting with me here. It's right in the picture you see right here over, trying to figure out where it's right
behind the fruit.
Right behind Miss Wanda's head, right over here. It's right about there somewhere. There's a muscadine vine right there. That's that muscadine vine.
It came from Pecan Grove originally.
It came from Pecan Grove originally. Now we own the property, and we have the original stock still there at Pecan Grove. Now, you tell me how that God can orchestrate things. It's amazing to me how that could have happened. I would have never, in my wildest imagination, have ever thought 30-something years ago that muscadine vine right there, I would now own the property, Wanda and I would, that is the daddy to that grapevine.
Isn't that amazing?
That is totally amazing to me. I mean, that's how I know that God knows the future from the past, you know, because I think he already knew we was eventually going to one day get it. And he just, I just had to throw that in there. That was just one of them tidbits that it just popped into my head.
Yeah. So we have all these different fruit trees. Peach trees is even over here.
Oh, yes, the peach trees.
And they're loaded.
They are. Everything is loaded this year.
Then this way behind the high tunnel, Danny has an apple tree. One.
Yes, remember on one of the former videos I showed y'all the apple tree by the high tunnel there, and I said, well, the cold might have got all the blooms on this one. I don't know, because we had that 30-degree weather for 5 hours that morning, and I just walked around there and was just goofing around looking, and I pulled one of the limbs down and looked. All the apples made it. They're all about a half an inch in diameter right now.
And it's two different kinds.
Yes, it's the Ein Shamir and the Anna.
On one tree.
On one tree. I grafted both of them onto it. So both of them have taken.
Yeah.
And we have apples again if nothing happens.
And then in between the greenhouses, we have this fig tree. We planted a little fig tree long before we put the high tunnels up.
Yeah.
And when Danny decided to do the high tunnels, one reason we didn't do one long one was that fig tree was sitting there.
I didn't want to dig the fig tree
So
up.
he did one high tunnel, and then the fig tree was at the end of it. Well, then when he decided he wanted another high tunnel, we just went from the fig tree and went out the other way. So we have it's a big fig tree now.
It's big fig tree now.
In between.
Well, what we've done, remember I tell y'all, a lot of people say, well, I can't grow a fig tree. I can't grow a fig tree. Well, let me tell you something about fig trees. Fig trees, all the feeder roots are on the top 4 inches of the surface. Now, the fig tree does have a tap root that goes down, but the feeder roots that actually keeps this tree alive is in the top 4 inches. Now, the success and the secret to a successful fig tree is to make sure those feeder roots stay covered beyond the perimeter of that tree at least 4 inches deep with mulch or some kind of covering. So what we done when we put the second high tunnel in is we took the ground cover that we used from DeWitt and come from DeWitt ground cover from Grower Solutions. We actually covered
the front part
of that tree and left the back part of it exposed. And every time we clean our high tunnels out, we take all the leftover vegetable plants, the weeds that we pull up, the grass, anything in there, and we pile it underneath that fig tree on top of the ground covering, plus on the part that's in the soil back there. And guys, this thing, in how many years would you say?
A 4-year-old
A 4-year-old fig tree I can climb in. Now, doesn't that tell you something? I mean, it's protected between 2 high tunnels.
And people asked about the Jadam method all the time, and one part of Jadam is using the old leaves, the old
Yes.
fruits and vegetables and things, and composting in your area as you grow, or composting it down and using the
Putting it back around
slurry
it, yeah.
around your trees
Yeah.
and things like that. We just chop and drop.
We
That's
chop and
another
drop it.
way that you use things in Jadam is chop and drop, and a lot of people do that. Now, you don't want your weeds that are already headed and seeds on them, you don't want to chop and drop those.
Right.
Because all you're doing is spreading your
You just
weeds.
spread junk, yeah.
If they've got seeds on them, get them out.
Get them out.
Don't compost them. But anything like if you had strawberry plants and you're pulling off the bad strawberry leaves and there's berries that didn't, they turned but they're mushy or something.
Right.
We'd chop and drop. We'd pull them off, drop them back in, and they feed that plant.
Yes.
And this mulberry tree, one reason it's doing so well is what we don't get and the birds don't get and the ants and all the other creatures falls on the ground.
Falls on the ground.
And it feeds the roots of this tree. Right now they're souring some on the ground.
Yeah, it
We can
smells.
smell
It smells like wine here right now. It smells like wine right now.
So,
And you'll learn this if you go do the research on the vineyards out in California and different places in the world where they grow these real fine vineyards. They go through and cut the tags of grapes off on lots of them, just let them drop around the plants and let them go put that back into the soil right there. We learned this out at my parents' blueberry farm that they had on the other side of town from us. The Tiff Blues, when they would get ready, usually, inevitably, when the Tiff Blues got ready, it would go to raining, and they would all start bursting and stuff, and you couldn't really sell them at that point. And they
you
would
could
just
use them for other things.
you
but
could use them for
couldn't sell
jelly, but you couldn't really sell them market-wise. And they would fall on the ground by the hundreds of thousands of pounds
You
of
couldn't
them.
pick them fast enough.
Yeah, and those trees literally flourished from those berries falling back into the ground around them, fertilizing those trees. Because we never fertilized them at my parents' house. Never fertilized anything. And those trees are like
They're-
10, 15 feet tall
they're
now. They're
huge.
huge. And that's what we learned here. Now we use the red clover and the berries that we don't harvest, we just let them fall back on the ground around the trees. So the mulberry tree here is literally red and black all over the ground underneath it. And
we
it is
have-
fertilizing it.
Behind it, we have the
Sugar cane.
no, right here.
Oh, the crabapple.
We have a crab apple
Yeah,
here,
it's a flowering crabapple.
but it puts on fruit.
It does put on little
and
miniature ones, yes.
The animals love them.
Oh, yes. Wildlife
and-
loves it.
So we have that. On this side, we have the sugar cane, like you said. So we have our sweetener, and
Yeah.
then we have our willow tree.
Yes, and the
and
willow tree is very important on a
It's
homestead.
a very important tree.
You can use it as a rooting hormone. You can use the bark as a pain reliever. I mean, there's lots of issues. You can make furniture out of willow trees. I mean, there's 1,000 different things you can do with a willow tree.
Yeah, and behind it we have our blueberries, our persimmons. We have another mulberry,
Yes.
and we have an apple tree out there, don't we?
No, the apple tree actually got a blight and died. That variety just didn't
It
do
didn't
good.
do well here.
Not here in the south.
So we have the persimmons, the blueberries, and in it we have the red clover.
Yes.
And so here on this area, and back behind us, we have yarrow. We've got
Huckleberries.
garlic chives, huckleberries. We've planted all kinds of medicinal and food-wise stuff everywhere around. So this backyard looks like, to
like
the average person,
It looks like a mess.
it might not look like something they would eat.
It's
they
not
would see trees and grass and weeds.
Yeah, it's not picturesque, okay, as far as a homeowner association would see it.
Yes.
But as far as
A
a
homesteader?
homesteader with survival stuff here, it is a treasure trove right here behind us.
Yeah.
You know, so that's, I mean, now there's going to come a point here, I would say probably in 2 weeks maybe, the clover tops will all be completely matured,
And brown,
And
and
when
it'll
they-
look yucky.
it'll look really bad then. And I'll come in here and mow it, and the whole place will be just as brown as it can be. But within a week or two after that, all the green grass underneath it will emerge above all the dead stuff, and it'll just start Cadillacing.
Again, not your pretty HOA
Right.
yard.
Yeah. I mean, oh Lord, that HOA stuff. We don't even want to get involved in that.
And then on the back between us and the cabin, we have, like I said, the pomegranate tree. But Danny planted,
I
if
planted
you remember years ago,
Yep.
different oak trees.
Chinese sawtooth oaks. Because Wanda and I all have always known that at some point we're not going to be able to keep up all the gardens outside. And I told her, I said, you know, on the base, some people call them base rows, some people call them terraces, and the new generation thing is swales. We planted.
We had swales before swales
We
were
had,
popular.
Yeah, we had swales before they were cool. I went back and planted the Chinese sawtooth oaks on top of these swales or terrace bases, whatever you want to call them. And I told Wanda, I said, it'll take many, many years before they're actually big enough to start bearing the nuts and everything. And by then, we calculated our age, and we said, you know what, we're not going to be able to garden it at that time. And then it'll just be able to be mowed. The trees will drop all this mast on the ground, and it'll be for the wildlife will be able to come in, and we might be able to even fence it off at that point, let the cows out underneath it to eat the grass and the clovers that come up under it, and expand our, our grazing area, or just keep it mowed, I mean, so that is what we're really looking at, back toward the cabin here. We have a hickory nut tree there that drops hickory nuts, which the
And we
wildlife
have two
loves.
pecan trees here.
Yes, right here behind us.
And then looking out this way, we have my rose bed, and roses have an amazing lot of properties to them.
Yes.
And even in recipes, years ago, I got an older book. I think it was 1800s, and about 3/4 of the recipes call for rose water. And I'm like, why in the world rose water? I could not figure it out, and I had to do a little research. But back then, they didn't have vanilla flavoring.
Yes.
So rose water was kind of like an additive they added to almost everything, plus the health benefits. With vitamin C, big time.
Big time.
So don't count your roses out. We have daylilies in the front.
We also have catawba trees over there.
Yeah.
We planted 3 of them. Bought them from a gentleman at a lake out here not far from us, because we wanted to be able to raise our own catawba worms for the pond right here, so we wouldn't have to hunt bait up. Now we do raise our own redworms and stuff, but a catawba worm and a catawba tree around a pond is beneficial. Plus there's banana trees at the end of the pond up here.
And but beyond that, you have your little mini fruit orchard,
I
call it.
do. Right
It's
over
got
on that
plums,
hill.
pears.
It's pears and plums.
Is that all it's still?
Well, there was some apples over there, but
most of the apple trees did not.
the apple trees did not make it because we tried different varieties. And in the South, let me tell you something. In the deep South, there's really
Way down
only,
here.
way down here, next to the Gulf Coast. There's only really 3 varieties that's going to even do anything here. That's the Anna, the Ain Shamir. Both of them are from Israel. And the Dorset Golden. And the Dorset Golden may even be from Israel. I don't remember.
I don't remember where the
But those are really the only 3 that's going to make an apple consistently down here. Now the
others
other ones will
may
make a beautiful
produce.
tree.
And some of them will produce.
They'll produce an apple or 2 here and there every so many years or something. But those are your heavy bearers in the deep, deep South down here.
And then another thing we have an abundance of. A couple of things that are wild edibles and wild on both properties that we are trying to get rid of instead of keep, because we have so much and people say, but it has benefits, is the yopon and the smilax.
And we also have another one, beautyberry.
Beautyberry.
The beautyberry is just, we mow that stuff down, there's so much of it.
But if we needed those 3, there's
ha-
such an abundance at both places that
Yes.
we don't even have to really look. It's just there.
It's just there.
And so the benefits of having those on your homestead is great. You may not want them everywhere, like we don't want them in the yards and we don't want them where we got them, but we have enough woods that is just totally covered with
Yes.
them. We wouldn't run out anytime
No.
soon. And the smilax, you can use the roots into a flower. It's a long process, but
It's a
you
long
can do
process,
it.
but you can also
eat the little
eat the
shoots.
like a wild asparagus.
The yopon, you can make teas out of the leaves.
Yep.
So, you know, and beauty berries, some people make jellies and stuff,
Yep.
but I always thought they were poisonous. I did not know that you
Yeah.
could eat them. But some people use those, but they make a great mosquito deterrent.
Yes,
out
I
of the
use them.
beauty
I
berries.
also use them when I'm hunting. I rub the leaves on
The
me.
leaves, yeah, not the berries.
Not the berries, but the leaves on me, and it actually is a mosquito repellent. Plus, it masks the human scent.
Yeah.
So we got that. And then actually in the back of the field back here, I actually have a cow oak acorn tree that I brought the acorns from north central Mississippi when I would hunt up there in the little small mountains of central Mississippi, and I lived up there. These acorns are as big as golf balls. I mean,
They're huge.
huge. And I brought some of those acorns back, grew some trees from them, and I actually planted them in the back of the field back here, and they are actually flourishing now. So, but anyway, that's where we're at, guys. I'm telling you, Wanda and I are trying to just tell people, do permaculture as much as you can. You know, put stuff in the landscape, because if they come for your food, at least have stuff growing out in the landscape that just looks like junk, so that at least you can nibble or have something to eat on where you won't starve to death. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
And we do keep our yards mowed and
Yeah.
nice looking and stuff like that. And we are replicating a lot of things we have here at Deep South over at Pecan Grove.
Yes, we are.
planted more fruit trees. There were some there.
there's a few.
And
yeah.
there were plenty of pecan trees
Oh,
everywhere. So
yeah,
we have a
lots of
whole
pecans.
pecan grove. But we've also got so many wild plants there,
Yeah.
and we're trying to leave a lot of those if we can. And then we're planting more fruit. We put the high tunnel up. We're gardening over there because
Yeah.
it's fresh ground. And this ground will get leveled out maybe by next year. Danny adds a few additives
time
and
we
stuff.
keep mowing mow the grass and let the green grass turn back into nitrogen and go back into the soil. Let the land just rest for a year. I think it will do
front
better.
garden, really, that's where we had the grazon issue years ago.
Yeah.
I think it needed to rest.
It needs it.
It needed to be built up, and the grazon, even though it's been, 6 years,
It's been
maybe?
about 6 years.
5 or 6.
5 or 6 years, yeah.
The grazon issue is still probably a little of it,
It's a
but
little,
we've
I'm
grown
sure.
some stuff that it didn't affect,
Yeah.
but we needed it to rest.
And let the grass go, because grass is a monocot, and monocots pull the aminopyralids out of the soil. So
So
not
we're
gonna hurt
mowing it and keeping it mowed and stuff to get it built back up. But permaculture, edible landscape,
call it what you may.
jungle.
Jungle, whatever. Call it what you may. It is the way of the future, guys. So I hope you've enjoyed the video today, and we look forward to seeing y'all over on Pecan Grove. There will be a link in the description down below for the site, because it's kind of difficult to find.
It's
And we would
Pecan Grove MS for Mississippi.
for Mississippi, and we welcome y'all over there, because if you want to keep up with what we're doing in the garden, that's going to be the place to come. So thank you guys from Deep South Homestead.